Greetings, loves. Welcome to another edition of Soul Alchemy. This is Akasha, bringing you the alchemy for your mind, your body, and your soul. Now, guys, make sure you go ahead and click that like button, share this video out, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and make sure you click that notification bell.
An interview. AJ Armstrong, he was convicted at the age of 16.
Considering the circumstances, as good as I can be, but I'm doing well.
How have things been in the last few weeks?
The pillow he put over their heads.
It's been definitely an adjustment, coming to a new facility, moving again and all that, getting,
AJ
comfortable
has
as possible here, meeting new people, and finally moving to population and not being isolated like I have been pretty much this whole time. So it's just been another adjustment, but it's going well so far.
How was that, just kind of being by yourself until you were moved in Gen Pop?
Honestly, even from juvenile days till now, I've always been in a cell for practically 23 hours a day, really 24 hours a day. So being by myself is something I've kind of become used to. It doesn't really bother me, but getting a cellie for the first time and that whole experience, it was a little nerve-wracking at first because you have no idea what to expect, but God put me in a good situation, good guy, so things are going well.
Why did you want to talk?
He said he's a good guy. After AJ killed his parents, he had his girlfriend that he was already with, and they ended up having a baby together. Yeah, she stood by him the entire time. They had a baby throughout the trial process. And AJ tried to pin his parents' murder on his brother. Good guy.
What's today?
I just feel like it's important for me to finally be able to really speak, for the last 7 years with us being in trial and stuff like that and fighting the case, my attorneys felt it was best for me not to really speak out. So I went with their lead, and now where we're at, I felt it was time for me to be able to speak my truth.
So let's talk about that, your truth. There's been 3 trials. The first 2 were hung juries. The most recent third one, you were convicted for killing both of your parents.
Yes,
the questions everyone want to know is, why did you kill your parents?
I didn't kill my parents. I would say falsely convicted, because I don't believe.
Do y'all believe him? Do you believe that he did not kill his parents? Do you believe that he was falsely convicted? As the man says, they had 3 trials, and on the third trial, of course, he was convicted. Now, AJ had a shotgun hole in his closet and a pillow where he, I guess, practiced shooting through a pillow. His baby sister was home at the time. His older brother, who he tried to pin this on, was not home. Do y'all believe he's innocent?
The conviction that took place was the result that should have happened. It should have been either another hung jury or a not guilty verdict. There's no way ever I would have in a million years imagined being here, but...
Now, I did watch this trial, and it is interesting that he had 2 hung juries. Not 1, but 2. So that is interesting.
Here I am. And, it's just about taking it one day at a time. The appeal process can be a slow process, but at the end of the day, I know I'm going to walk out of here. This isn't how my story ends.
And that's what he says. He says he believes he's going to be acquitted.
Things go for me. It's just continuing to keep my trust in God regardless of what comes my way. But, yeah, absolutely not. It's a false conviction.
And then if it's not you, then who?
I can't give you that answer. If I knew that answer, I wouldn't be in here. If my family knew that answer, we would have given that over to the authorities as quick as possible. But it's just due to their lack of investigation and them not pursuing anything outside of me from that night, like they've said on the stand, it's put us in a situation to where we don't have anything. And we're probably going to have to live the rest of our lives not knowing what happened to my parents. And that's unfortunate, but it's the situation the Houston Police Department and the DA's office has put us in.
Talk to me about how was it for you during these last 3 trials, just sitting and listening to everything?
I wouldn't wish it on anybody. it's horrible to have to sit there and hear the things that I had to listen to be able to have really me and my parents' relationship dissected and broken down in a way that the DA felt it was, when in reality it wasn't like that. Sure, my parents got on me. Everyone read the text messages. Everyone saw what was being said. But at the end of the day, my parents loved me, and I loved them more than anything.
Now, he did cause his parents a lot of stress. He was repeatedly called through the text messages from his mom a liar, a manipulator. He would do things like sneak out of the house and skip certain classes and things like that because he wanted to be with his girlfriend. So they had a time with that in court, and reading her text messages and giving their impression of what her impression of her son was.
That was the relationship they had. They were strict on me. They knew the potential that I had. They knew where I could go in my life, and that's how they were. But it was never anything more than that. So having to sit there and especially listen to the DA, try and say they're speaking for my parents or they're doing what my parents would have wanted, and just things like that, I just felt was really out of place and just disrespectful to my grandparents in general, because those were their kids and they're sitting in court, and we all know if either one of my parents would have made it or if both of my parents would have made it, this would have never been a situation we would have been in. They would have made it very clear that they didn't believe in what the DA was trying to do, and what they were trying to say about our relationship just wasn't true.
You mentioned the part when the prosecutor said that they were speaking through your mom specifically. How did that make you feel?
Very frustrated, because it's just, like I said, it was really disrespectful. My grandparents are sitting right there, and to say that you're speaking for their daughter and their daughter-in-law when you don't know, you never knew their daughter or daughter-in-law. You're just reading text messages and assuming, hey, this fits our narrative, so let's...
Now, he did have the support of his family, including his grandparents, throughout this trial, which is also interesting.
Hey, Dawn felt this way, when in actuality, Dawn didn't feel that way. My mom was hard on me, she was hard on my sister, she was hard on my brother, she was hard on everyone. That's just how my mom was. But she loved even bigger, and that never changed just because I was doing things I shouldn't have. So just to have that narrative push that my mom felt that way about me or anything like that, it was hard.
Talk to us about your relationship with your parents.
I felt like I had a great relationship with my parents. Despite, I was a 16-year-old kid. I snuck out to be with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. I was smoking weed. I was getting bad grades. I wasn't doing well in school my sophomore year, but at the end of the day, it was still a normal relationship. I was with my dad all the time, going to the gym, working out 5 days a week. We still laughed. We still joked. We did things. We had family events. Everything was normal. I just made some goofy kid mistakes.
Now, he did have a closer relationship with his father than he did with his mother. His mother seemed like she was the one who, laid down the law and tried to enforce the rules on him a lot. As we all heard in the text messages back and forth between them two. But at the same time, for him to say that he had a normal relationship with his parents, it didn't seem, normal. I don't think that that's the word, because again, like he said, he was not doing well in school. He was skipping, he was smoking, he was doing a lot of things, taking a car, those type of things, and lying. Continue. That was a big issue between him and his mom. He would continuously sneak out and do these things, and she would find out, and he would lie. That's not really normal,
It's at that age, and it was taken and blown into something that it really wasn't. And, it's hard to look back, because after going through those 3 trials and hearing all the things that they've said, it's kind of just caused my mind to almost kind of forget some of the good things, because it's been pushed on me nothing but negative. And it sucks. It really does. But at the end of the day, I know how my parents felt about me, and I know how I felt about them, and that's what I just choose to hold on to regardless.
Does looking back at your relationship with your parents change things for you now because you're a father yourself with your own son?
Definitely. I told my family all the time, with having Hendrix for just 2 years, now he's 3, it's I see so much of understanding what parenting is like from my parents' perspective. I see how the things my dad tried to instill in me at a very young age, why it was so important. And I see a lot of myself in my son. So it's I can see why my parents were the way they were with me and things like that. But it's it's being a parent's a blessing. I absolutely love it, and
This guy, I don't know whether he knew he was going to go to jail, he was going to be convicted, or he really thought he was not. Because, again, he knew he was the main suspect being charged in his parents' death, and he was going to trial for this, and he still chose to have a baby. And his wife chose to marry him. She was then his girlfriend. She chose to marry him, and she chose to have a baby by him, and now he has to raise that child from prison.
I'm grateful that I had the time with my parents, and they were the great parents that they were, and they instilled so much in me in those 16 years that I feel like I've prepared to be a father even at a young age. But, it's just, I definitely see why my parents were the way they were, but I'm grateful for it,
When's the last time you saw Kate, like face-to-face here?
The last time we were face-to-face would have been probably about somewhere early September, something like that. So it's been a while.
While you were still in Harris County?
Yes, while I was still in Harris County. She came every Wednesday and Saturday to come see me while I was there. So since I moved, I haven't seen anyone except, I got to see Brandon, but outside of that, I haven't seen her or my grandparents. I told them it's a far drive out here. And then flights and things like that, they can be expensive. So I was like, you guys just hold off, we'll figure this out, and hopefully we can get me moved back closer. So we'll see how that plays out.
Let's go back to the day you were convicted. What was going through your mind once you heard that the jurors rang that bell, that they either had a question or they were ready for verdict? What were you and the team of attorneys talking about in your family?
I knew they had a verdict. So once that bell was rang, I knew the verdict that came in because I believe they said they rang it twice, and that meant they had a verdict. So I went in there and I was with JL, and she kind of let me know that it was a verdict. She heard the two bells. So for me, it was just a matter of, I was excited, honestly. I was like, we finally are at a place, we've got a jury that has heard all the evidence.
Exactly. He thought that he was not going to get convicted of this. Now, a lot of people say that AJ was a very intelligent and sneaky and manipulative 16-year-old, and he had a lot of people, including his family, really believe that he was innocent.
And they see the truth, and I was believing that was my chance to finally be done with all of this, to not have to ever be in a courtroom again, have to ever sit through another trial, have to worry about with another hung jury, with the DA come back 5 years later or 10 years later and try and charge me again. I just felt that I was finally at that point of being able to move on with my life. But it was also nerve-wracking because there's also the flip side to it, which is what we ended up getting. And, it was a whole bunch of emotions, but there was a little bit of excitement there, hoping that it was that time to be able to finally move on with my life.
Do you recall hearing Kate's or any of your family members after the verdict came down?
Hearing them, I turned around immediately when I was walking out to look at her because I just wanted her to know it's going to be okay. Like, I love you. And I wanted them to see me be strong right in that moment because I knew that what was coming, it was going to be tough. But I wanted them to know that I'm going to be okay, that we're going to get through this, we're going to figure it out, I'm going to be okay. And that's what I tried to do, but I could see everyone as they walked out, and it was obviously emotional, and it was emotional back there for me and my attorneys. We really are family. I've been with Rick and Chris for 7 years. I've known Chris for as long as I can remember, and JL came in right before the first trial, and she's been amazing. So it's like, this wasn't just attorney and client. This was a family that had been built over the last 7 years. They saw me grow from a 16-year-old kid to a 23-year-old father and a husband now. So things have completely changed, and they've been supportive every step of the way. And
yeah, and they said that they believe that he is innocent, but the question is, who did it? Because, again, it was only AJ and his sister at the house, and AJ originally said there was a burglar, and he saw the burglar going downstairs. He couldn't identify him, but then he turned around and said that the burglar was indeed his brother. Now, his brother has an alibi. He was with his girlfriend, who was, I believe, a few blocks or either a few houses down. And they were told that the police were at the house and everything. And then he ran down there with a bat. Or either AJ called him. I believe AJ called the brother and was like, somebody's in the house and blah, blah, blah. And he ran down there because I know the ex-girlfriend testified and said he ran down there with a bat. And, he was crying and everything. So they really tried to make the brother out to be a bad guy because he had a learning disability, I believe it was, or autism or ADHD or something to that effect. But they really, I mean, the defense really, really, really went hard in on the brother and tried to make it seem like it was the brother. But all other evidence apparently pointed at AJ being the only one who did this. He was tired of his parents being on his back. He wanted to be free to do what? Exactly what he did was live his life with his girlfriend and, get married, have a baby, and all of that.
I couldn't thank them enough for everything they've done for me. I love the three of them with everything I have in me, and I would pick them to be my attorneys for anything life would ever throw my way. They're that great to me.
I want to ask some questions about the trial itself. What was going through your head leading up to the trial when you hear that there's been new evidence with the blood underneath the name tag?
Well, you saw the lawsuit that we filed. That was my immediate reaction.
Say it again?
I said the lawsuit that was filed was my immediate reaction.
Yes, that was what eventually convicted AJ. There was another detective going back over the case, and she had fresh eyes on the case, and she saw a tag that was on the hoodie that AJ was wearing, and she found specks of blood that belonged to the parents underneath that tag, and that's what got him convicted.
Very clear to me, my family, my attorneys, that evidence was planted, because I don't understand how, after 7 years in a case of this magnitude, the day before trial, you come out and say, there's been new evidence that we've now discovered. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's what the DA's office did, and it's unfortunate, and I feel that being the newest piece of evidence to the case, the only thing that really changed from the first trial to the second trial to the third trial, I felt that evidence was probably the reason what got me in here, unfortunately. And it sucks because it's planted. There's no other way around it in my eyes.
Now, he's saying there's no other way around it, but what they said was that originally no one, upon inspecting the garment and trying to find blood, that no one moved the tag before, which they should have, of course, but that is what they said. No one moved the tag, and when a new detective came in and she moved the tag, because it just seems like, logic, and then she found blood.
That prosecutor spoke to afterwards, and then they relayed that back to us, said that it was the 911 call and the interrogation of that night. They said after they heard that, they already said you did it. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. So you understood why they would think you did it after the 911 call and the interrogation?
I would understand, but it's also, for me, that night, you're dealing with, at that time I was 16 years old. I was sitting in the back of a cop car for 6-7 hours, no sleep, no idea of what's going on with my parents. I'm asking these officers what's going on with my parents. I'm not getting any information. I'm taken downtown. Now I'm being questioned by these detectives. And for me, yes, there were things that were said that might have looked like I was trying to lie or cover something up. But at the end of the day, I was a 16-year-old kid at the time. I'm not have any experience of being investigated by police officers or know what to say, what's wrong or what's right in the moment. And if I went back and could do it all over again, I would have immediately just asked for my lawyer, because that probably would have put us in a different situation. But I don't understand it at all, how the statement or the 911 call led to a guilty verdict, but that's what the jurors decided, and I don't hold any ill will towards them. That's what they...
Now, I saw that a couple of people was asking, how was he questioned at 16 without his parents? Well, his parents are deceased, so let's be clear on that. And who else permission were they going to get at 16? That in most states is you are responsible for yourself. You are considered an adult, and you can be tried as an adult. So it's not uncommon for a 16-year-old to be held responsible for his own questioning. And if he paid attention to what his parents was trying to teach him, maybe he would have thought of to, ask for a lawyer, but he did not. And they did use his responses and actions in the interrogation in the case against him.
felt after reading the case. That's how these things work. So
You said if you could redo it again after or while being interrogated, you would have immediately just stopped talking and asking for your attorney. Why didn't you do that?
I was trying to help. In my eyes at that time, I thought I was helping, giving the information that I felt would be able to best help just answering the questions that they had for me, honestly. And part of me didn't really understand that I was being accused until they started to really press me and things like that over like gunshot residue and all those different kinds of things. So for me, it was like, okay, you guys don't believe me and I'm not being accused of this. So that at that point, I always think back like, dang, okay, at that point, I probably should have been like, look, I don't even know if I have a lawyer, but I would like to have a lawyer now, because I felt the pressure of, okay, this is flipped from a, hey, let's get to know you and help me figure out what happened to we're saying you did this type.
So now he's going to talk about when he shot the gun through the pillow and also through the floor, which pierced his parents' ceiling, that they showed in court. And he first lied and said he was, showing his friends how to use the gun or something like that. So here's his explanation.
Just talk to us through that. What happened there? And you told investigators that you were doing it for a friend, to show off to a friend.
The whole gun incident, with that being shot through the floor, I believe they said it was days before, but it was a week or two before. That wasn't something that was done like the day before the incident. I believe I don't know if my sister testified to that or one of the two, but my parents were aware of it, and they also continued to say that there was like fresh sheetrock on the ground, but there was never any fresh sheetrock on the ground. There was, in any of the pictures that they showed, there was the bullet, obviously, but that was kind of blended into the carpet. But again, it was just, with the way things went with my parents passing, it was able to be blown into something big that, oh my gosh, he was test firing, and that's what he was doing, and that was his whole plan. When in reality, it was just a 16-year-old kid playing around with a gun. Like, it's...
Okay, but it's also weird that he shot the gun through a pillow in his closet. So how do you explain that? So he's asked, why you didn't bring the friend forward to testify that I shot the gun weeks before and I was just showing the friend how the gun was used. Now, that is also a piece of damning evidence that was against him and helped in his conviction, in my opinion. So it would make sense for you to bring the friend forward to say, hey, yeah, we was in a closet. This was way before this happened. His parents got killed. And he was showing off with the gun. That's all it was on that day. But he didn't do that. So here's his explanation as to why not.
I don't think it would have helped, only because they had their mind made up about what they felt about me, So I don't know if disclosing that information would have been beneficial to me or not. It could have been, it could not, but I don't really know, honestly.
Do you want that person to...
That doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure his lawyer would have known that would have been good evidence, because, again, the evidence against him was that he was test firing for when he actually was going to shoot the parents with the pillow over their heads to see, how that was going to work, how the bullet was going to go through, how much noise it was going to make, and things like that.
No, not really. Just because I don't feel it's necessary to bring someone else into this, bring that person into this, when it's already at this magnitude, this late in the case and things like that. So, that's really why I never spoke on who the friend was at that time, because it just wasn't, I didn't think it would be beneficial or to want to bring them into it either, because obviously with how things are and how big this case has become, it wasn't necessary to bring someone else into it that was really just an innocent bystander at the time.
But you're still...
I just I lied for no reason, and I hate that I did that, because it put me in a situation of, look, we have this pattern of him continuing to lie, but I don't feel that, that's the thing that I...
So they kept making up a pattern of you continuing to lie? Or were you continuing to lie? So he's asked about the fire that was set at the house, and he's also saying that doesn't make any sense.
There's the gasoline story. I don't really understand how there was gasoline on the carpet. Has always been something that was really confusing and a little suspect to our family, me, my family, and my lawyers, just about how gasoline was there, because there's no gasoline in the house. So are they trying to say that I took an alcohol bottle to a gas station and filled it up or something? I don't understand how.
Right. So that's just being exaggerative. I mean, they did not say that. So why not go off the deep end with some kind of theory that they may be thinking that doesn't really make any sense whatsoever?
It's not something that I made up. It's not something that I lied about. It's the truth. I was playing with matches, being a goofy kid, and started a fire. And it was put out. My parents dealt with me, obviously, and we moved on from it.
So you're
Now, mind you, this guy said that he had a normal relationship with his parents. So you're shooting guns in-house through the bedroom floor, which goes down to their bedroom, and you're starting fires amongst all the other things we discussed. And, y'all relationship was normal.
Why did they never check the surveillance footage from the business right across, literally a house over? There's businesses, when you come out and you make that left, there's businesses all down that street. There's businesses on the back street. If they were so confident and knew for certain that it was me, they could have easily just checked that security footage, and then boom, it would have either proved our case, which we know it would have proved our case, or it would have proved their case. But they never.
So why didn't his lawyers check it? If it's evidence that would have helped his case, in his opinion, why didn't his lawyers check it? This guy. So he's saying outside of the note that was left at the house that said, "I've been watching you," his father was also receiving death threats, and that wasn't allowed to be heard at trial. But we also have to remember that this is his word. We don't know this for a fact that his father was indeed receiving death threats.
But hey, he didn't mention this masked man until his statement. So that's another thing that was kind of frustrating. And then, there's a few things that the death threats, that was never brought into any trial. Why was it not allowed to be heard that my father was receiving death threats? Why is that something that had to be kept out? The DA felt it was irrelevant, but to us it was very relevant. My father was receiving death threats. That was known information that was given to the police and the DA's office. And when they got that information, instead of investigating it, they were sending messages back and forth to each other about, hey, should we put it under a different case number?
So after 7 years of investigations and accusations and 3 trials, prosecutors say they finally found justice for Antonio and Dawn Armstrong. The former NFL player and his wife was found shot in the bedroom of their Houston home in 2016 while their children AJ and Kyra were inside. Now, there was some things brought up in court that alleged that the father, Antonio, was involved in some strange activity with some strange people. And it was brought out by, of course, the defense. So AJ is asked in this interview about that.
Like I said, during that interview, there were things that I spoke on that just, looking back on, I can barely even remember that interview. If it wasn't for the statement itself, that whole night was a blur. And, just, again, it's probably one of those things that I said in the moment that didn't really, just trying to make sense of all of it, because I still to this day don't understand how my parents were murdered. It doesn't make sense to me how we are where we are. My father was loved by everyone I felt. My mother was loved by everyone. They were great people in the community. So for me, it's never really made sense. And I guess at that point it was 16-year-old me trying to make sense of it. But, it was obviously, that's another thing that they took and they blew it out of proportion again and made it to seem.
Yet again, they blew it out of proportion. I don't know. What do you guys think? But for years, AJ, who was 16 at the time, was identified by investigators as the lead suspect. He maintained his innocence, and he had the support of his entire family. I can tell you now, nothing like that will come back on me, AJ Armstrong told investigators when they questioned him after the killings and said they had evidence against him. AJ was charged with 2 counts of capital murder and tried twice, with both trials ending in a mistrial. So AJ is now asked a question that I was hoping they did ask him, which is, how did he feel when the defense was trying to paint out as his brother was the one who committed these crimes? Listen to his response.
I love my brother more than anything. Best big brother you could ever ask for. But from the time he came back from college...
Now, the but is going to tell how he really feels. Because if he's the best big brother that you could ever ask for, what is the but? Well, listen to what the but is.
Till about 2 years ago, there was genuine fear of him because of how bad he had gotten with his issues. And I didn't even allow my son to be around my brother because there was that level of not knowing what he would do, how he would act, or what was going on. So for me, I had no idea. As much as I never wanted to, I didn't believe it could be that. I was also like, that's not Josh. The Josh from when he came back from college till about 2 or 3 years ago is not the guy that I grew up with, is not the guy that I knew, that I know today. That wasn't Josh. So for me, it wasn't looking at him, the person. It was looking at, okay, that disease that he was dealing with, the things that he said, the things that he did at that time. It was scary. So to take the leap to say, okay, maybe when he was really going through it and the things that were going on with my parents, it could have been Josh. But, you know, I know my brother, and I separate the two. I really do separate what he is now and before college versus that, I guess, that like 5-year period. Those are two completely different people. But I know how, like I said, I know my brother. I know how great of a person he is. We talked throughout this entire process. He's been supportive throughout the entire process. We talk to this day. He checks up on me, you know. It's not what the prosecutors and some of their witnesses tried to make it out to be with my brother. As a matter of fact, Josh is doing great today. He's, for the last, I'd say 2 going on 3 years, he's been amazing. He has been doing well, taking it with his medicine and everything that he needs to do.
Wow.
Working, going to school, social, like, he's Josh again. So for me, that's what I care about most, is having my big brother back and not being in that situation of not knowing. Because it sucked having to keep my son away from him. Like, that's his uncle. You know, they should have a relationship. They should know each other. But I just wanted to, being a father, I have to protect mine. I have to protect my wife, my son, and they obviously come first. So I had to separate my emotions of my love for my brother with knowing that, okay, he's not really himself right now.
So Antonio Armstrong, a former NFL player and later an owner of several personal gyms, and his wife Dawn lived with AJ and Kyra, which is AJ's sister, in their southeastern Houston home. Now, on July 29, 2016, police received a call from AJ Armstrong saying that he heard gunshots from his parents' room. And when first responders arrived, they found the couple in bed with gunshot wounds to their heads. Don Armstrong was pronounced dead at the scene. Antonio Armstrong died later in the hospital. AJ Armstrong was immediately taken by the police for questioning, and during that questioning, he claimed that he saw a masked intruder in the house. So how does AJ feel about this? Who does he think actually murdered his parents? Well, AJ?
I feel that answer probably lied within those death threats that my father was receiving. And whatever was going on, the answer was probably behind that door, but the DA shut it. To this day, I don't understand how they did that. Like I was saying earlier, how are you, when we found out and we went before the judge and she said they had to come off of their messages and things like that, how are you guys messaging back and forth about hiding this? Like, you didn't want this to come out. You didn't tell us till much later. So it's like, you knew something was there, but you chose to ignore it, essentially. You chose to not tell the public. You chose to not bring this before a jury. And they fought before every single trial. That was something that came up about how they did not want that to come in because they felt it wasn't relevant. I don't understand to this day how it's not relevant that my father was receiving death threats. Why can't...
So AJ said that he saw someone running. He said, like, I saw him running. That's what he told investigators, right? So investigators questioned this story because they found no evidence of an intruder. And the alarm to the home was still armed when first responders arrived. Now, AJ Armstrong was the one who disarmed the alarm to let the officers in. So during the third trial, they brought in a mannequin, well, two mannequins, and they decided to replicate the home scene, mainly the bedroom scene and the stairs. So they brought in the stairs and they had mannequins that were to represent AJ's parents lying in their bed. Now, here AJ is going to talk about how he felt about that scene.
Anyone that's been to my house, their description of the stairs and how you have to come down a certain way to be able to see, it's just not accurate. You don't have to walk all the way down. From my third story, you probably could have walked down 2 or 3 steps and peeked your head and been able to see the door. It's not hard at all. But again, they have to make the narrative of, hey, no, you have to do this, and you got to walk he had to come all the way down. Because they wanted to make it seem like, hey, he had to walk all the way down and see this person, and that person saw him, so therefore he has to be lying. And that's not the case. You only have to walk a few steps down. So I didn't agree with the way they presented the stairs.
So you're saying, in that case, if you are coming down the stairs of the home, there's a way for you to see the person you said who did this without them seeing you back?
Yeah, there's a wall. Like they showed that wall that they were trying to present throughout trial. If I'm walking, I don't want to be too specific with the number of steps, and but I'll just say like 3 or 4 steps. I believe they said I had to come down more than that. If I come down just quite a few steps and I peek my head over, you can see out the creak of that. I mean, you can see right past that wall, right to where the door is. So there's a way to see and not be seen. So I felt the fact that they presented that as if there was no way I could have seen them and they didn't see me was just false. And with the mannequins in the bed, I just felt that was their way of trying to explain the planted evidence, because it doesn't make sense that Miss Rossi would say
Planted
that, one, I was in the room, which is false. I never went in the room. Secondly, to say that I went and put pillows over their head.
Hold on, he never went in the room. So when he called the police and said that someone had been in their home, he went and got his sister. But he never once, your parents are the adults, you're the children. They're the ones that's in charge. They're the ones that keep everybody safe. They're the like, you never went to your parents?
And in putting the pillows over their head, I believe it's called expiration, she was saying, was taking place. And somehow, some way, during that, 2 tiny spots of blood hit in those exact spots where the sticker was. But somehow the blood also dried in the process of that happening. And from that moment till 7 hours later, those 2 tiny spots that were dried in that exact same spot where the sticker would be put never fell off, never flaked off, despite the fact that I was touched by officers. They even said that they grabbed me and pulled me out of the door. And if I'm coming out of the door...
Now let's be clear. What they have said is that they said that his father was aspiring with blood in his lungs while he was dying, right? And he would have coughed up blood speckles. Very tiny, tiny speckles. So any that may have gotten on his sweater was unable to be found whenever they went over it for one reason or another. Maybe it was too long of a time span and dried up. It's too small, dried up, blah, say whatever. What they are saying is that when the other investigator went back and removed the sticker had helped preserve the blood that would be underneath the sticker, not on top of the sticker, but underneath the sticker. Like, it was on the clothing and the sticker was put on over the blood. They couldn't see it. It was too small. And I believe it was a dark blue sweater at the time. And they found it that way. He doesn't understand this?
They would grab and pull exactly where that sticker was at, or where the sticker was placed. So how would that even... I just don't... I to this day, I don't understand their argument for the blood. It just never made sense to me.
Okay. So the officers also had questions about bizarre evidence found at the family home. There was a bullet hole originating from AJ's third floor bedroom, penetrating into the ceiling of his parents' bedroom. Now, the teen initially said during this interview with police that he didn't touch his father's gun, which was determined to have been the weapon that killed Don and Antonio. But when pressed by law enforcement, he admitted that he showed off the weapon to a friend weeks earlier and he fired it. Now, additionally, investigators at the scene noticed a burn mark on the carpet at the top of the stairs to the second floor. When detectives questioned AJ Armstrong about this, he claimed that a few weeks before the murders, he had been playing with matches and accidentally dropped one.
Thing for them. How do you only peel the sticker back and see blood there, and then pull the sticker back and see blood there and stop? Why don't you continue peeling? Because now if there's...
What is he saying? Because from what I recall from the woman doing the interview, she took the sticker, the actual sticker, to get the blood off, the remnants of the blood off of it to be tested. So they completely removed the sticker. He's saying that this was planted.
There could be a bunch of blood right there, but they just stopped. And like Rick said, it's like she knew it was already there, so she just stopped. She said, "Oh, we got it. We found it. There it is." It doesn't make any sense to me. And
no,
I'll refuse to...
They had already searched his clothing thoroughly for blood. And, well, not thoroughly because they didn't remove the sticker, but thoroughly otherwise. And they didn't find it. Now, if you guys don't know anything about how they do with unsolved cases or cold cases, it'll sit, but then they'll have someone with fresh eyes come through. Someone newly assigned to the case who has not looked at it before, and, you know, they can go back in, try just another head, right? Fresh eyes. That's what they call it. And when this woman thoroughly checked the sweater, she didn't find... You have to go watch her interview. She did an interview about this. She thoroughly checked the sweater and she didn't find any blood until she lifted the sticker off of his sweater. So...
ever accept that evidence wasn't planted, because I know for a fact it was. And the fact that it was allowed in the trial, and, you know, it sucks because, like I said, there's no other way around it rather than it was planted evidence.
You strongly believe that this was planted somehow. Who do you think would have planted it?
I can't give you an exact person, but it will come out one day.
Well, I don't know about that because he just said he knows for a fact that it was planted. So then you know for a fact who planted it.
We have our strong suspicions, but with the civil case, obviously right now it's being put on hold while this is worked out. But when that time comes, it will come out with.
So investigators at the scene noticed a burn mark on the carpet and at the top of the stairs to the second floor. Now, when detectives questioned AJ Armstrong about this, he claimed that a few weeks before the murders, he had been playing with matches and he accidentally dropped one. AJ Armstrong went on to say that he initially lied to his father about how the burn mark occurred. But, same as with the gun incident, firing the gun in his closet. Eventually, he admitted it. They talked it out and it was all good. Now, according to the audio of the interrogation, detectives made it clear to AJ Armstrong that they believed his story wasn't adding up and that he knew more than what he was saying about how his parents ended up shot in their beds. Now, Armstrong steadfastly maintained his innocence, insisting he had nothing to do with his parents' murders. Now, after the interview, AJ Armstrong was booked as a juvenile on charges of capital murder, much to the shock of his family. Armstrong pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his case was eventually transferred to adult court.
Well, I can't say I know who committed the crimes, because if I knew who committed the crimes, I would have came off that information a very long time ago. But with the planted evidence, I don't want to. The civil process is a lot different than the criminal, and the last thing I would want to do is interfere with what's going on. So I'm going to take the advisement of my lawyers and not really go into that, but I can share that I strongly believe and know that that's planted evidence.
So AJ has a civil lawsuit. His attorney filed a lawsuit on behalf of him, saying that he waited until the jury got the case and was sequestered before filing it because he did not want the jury to see the allegations. Now, word of the lawsuit emerged as jurors began deliberating Armstrong's fate on Tuesday for the 2016 murder of his parents. None of Armstrong's criminal case attorneys are representing him in the civil lawsuit. This lawsuit is about the city of Houston and their long-standing practice of planting evidence. Civil rights attorney Randall Killeen said during a Wednesday morning press conference, referencing the 2019 Harding Street botched drug raid. Now, the suit alleges one or more people inside the Houston Police Department planted his father's blood particle on the t-shirt Armstrong wore on the day of the murder. Did they have blood on file? Because the man been long dead and buried a long time after this. So did they have some blood in evidence that they used that was preserved? It was not discovered in the first or the second trial, but admitted as evidence only after the third capital murder trial was set to begin. Now, so Celestina Rosie, a blood spatter and crime scene reconstruction expert, testified that she discovered the blood on June 2nd, 2023, days before Armstrong's trial was supposed to start. And when she went to the HPD's property to view the bloody pillows collected from Antonio Sr. and Don Armstrong's bed, Rossi told the jury that when she was given the list of all the Armstrong evidence while in the police property room, she noticed Armstrong's t-shirt, pants, and sandals had been collected. Now, she said when she laid out Armstrong's gray t-shirt, she immediately saw what appeared to be an almost reddish-brown stain touching the bottom of the police sticker. Upon further testing of the blood, Courtney Heed with the Houston Forensic Science Center confirmed the blood is very likely from Antonio Armstrong Sr. Now, Rossi testified that when she received the t-shirt, part of the police name tag appeared to be peeling, revealing the first stain, and she conceded on the stand that the stain could be from cross-contamination. According to the civil lawsuit, the gray t-shirt Armstrong was wearing at the time of the murders was tested by the Houston Forensic Science Center, and no DNA was found. Now, additionally, the suit stated that the officers testified that there was no blood found on Armstrong when he was arrested. Killeen says that he filed the suit because he wants to put the city of Houston on notice that they must preserve evidence surrounding this civil case, namely the video surveillance system in the property room and the logs of who had access to the evidence. Killeen said he could not file the lawsuit until the DNA evidence was introduced during the trial and claims he is using trial testimony as the basis of the facts for the suit. Now, who's paying for all these attorneys? His family, his in-laws, because he's claiming them all to be in full support of him. So they didn't come for free, that's for sure. Not only one homicide investigator came across AJ, but several did. And they all testified in court. They saw no DNA evidence, Killeen said. So how is it all of a sudden after 7 years, here's the DNA evidence? I think a fair person who looked at all the evidence that we have just right now without even getting more evidence will say, this is more likely than not somebody planted there. I'm reading this, y'all, as it is written. I've never seen a federal lawsuit filed on the day of closing arguments. Steve Scalise, an attorney who is not involved in either criminal or civil cases, said, "It's just too big of a coincidence. Now, there must be some intent behind it." Yeah, to win the case. So the lawyer does not ask for a specific amount of money. Instead, it will be up to a jury if this case makes it that far. And the lawyer said the verdict in the current trial will have no bearing on the civil case. So Mary Benton, communications director for Mayor Sylvester Turner's office, told ABC 13 that she was unaware whether the city had been officially notified about the lawsuit. "Once we receive details, the city will respond first in court and not the media," she said. Now, whether or not anybody is found guilty or not, there is another mistrial. It's the planting of the evidence. And we're going to try to ensure that not only for AJ, but for others, that Houston Police Department quits planting evidence, Colleen said. Wow. So here is another golden question. Why did you not go into your parents' room when you called 911? You heard gunshots in there. He says here, as he said before, that he saw the person who came in run out. He was looking down the stairs. He peeked around the little wall. He saw that person leaving, and he didn't go and check on his parents. He didn't go at all. He went straight to his sister's room, and I believe, if I recall, he stopped his sister because her immediate response was to go to the parents' room, and he stopped her. So the interviewer asked AJ, why didn't he go and check on his parents? And this is what he said.
I did not want to see my parents in the state that I feared they might be in. I don't know. That's also why throughout trial, whenever things were showed, I always looked down. I never want to see my parents in that state.
That's a normal reaction for a lot of things that you have indeed done. Usually when a crime is committed against someone and it is personal, it's things are done to cover their faces while you're doing it or after, right? Bodies are found. They're covered up with a sheet or an article of clothing. You see the funny videos on social media when they're trying to ask the dog who did it, and he doesn't want to look at it. Who did this? He turns away. So I don't think that would explain why this bold, because he keeps saying I was 16. We all know that he was very, I don't want to say mature, but he was a confident 16-year-old, spoke eloquently, very intelligent. He basically did what he wanted to do, even if it was against what his parents wanted for him, and he would lie about it. He was sneaky. His mother even said in her text messages to him that he was very manipulative. Well, he's not this very fearful guy who just couldn't stand to. I don't even know that people are necessarily gonna be thinking about that to where it overpowers them to stop them from going to check. You may be thinking, I don't want to see anything bad, no blood, I hope they're not hurt. You're gonna be probably thinking things like that, but you're still gonna rush in there to try and see are they okay? It's just a natural reaction. So this excuse to me is just, it's like the moment where you get to where you're like, civil suit, the wording of the civil suit and, a couple of other things. maybe, just maybe he didn't do it, or maybe, it could be that it was somebody else. And then you have something like this that's just like, no.
It's not. I want to remember my parents how I remember my parents.
Okay.
And hearing how my mom was found and where my dad was and things like that, that's not something I have any interest in ever seeing. So
what do you guys think? Do you think that he wanted to remember his parents how he wanted to remember his parents? That's something, because they allowed him to go to the funeral with cuffs on. I don't know if it was open casket or he went to the casket or anything like that. But at the time of the incident, during the time that this is actually happening, we're not all assuming that someone is dead, right? It sounds, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me as if he came under the assumption that they're dead. So we know that they're dead. I don't want to see them like that. I want to remember them the way that they were. Is that something you would be thinking more so at a funeral? Or is that something that you immediately would be thinking right when it's all happening? I don't know, AJ.
And again, for that to be used against me, it sucks, because who runs in that room?
Everybody.
I don't believe.
Tell me, guys, just off the top of your head, not even time to think about all this stuff that AJ clearly has had time to think about, and what he just said. Just immediately, you're in your home, you're 16 years old, you hear gunshots coming out of your parents' room, you run, you get your sister. Okay, let's say you get your sister first. You want to check on your sister, you want to secure your sister. That's cool. We can go ahead and get our sister first. But you telling me you're not going to run in that room? You're not going to go bust up in that room? You're not going to go in that room and try and see what's going on with your parents? Oh, tell me, is there one AJ out there? Is there one person to be like, what? Who would go in that room? I'm not going in that room. Okay, you're scared. That would kind of make me believe that, that person might know. He said he saw him downstairs. We can't use that one. I don't have a reason. I can't come up with a reason. I can't think of a reason. When he said who runs in that room, everybody. Am I wrong?
Everybody in my situation would have, because again, I didn't want to see my parents. What I was worried was, how they were. And my biggest focus was, I need to get my little sister out of this house. I need to make sure she's okay. And
okay, maybe the guy who ran outside the house is still outside the house. He had to disarm the alarm to let the police in. So, I mean, it's like this would... I originally didn't want to report on this, but then when I saw he did this interview and he's filing a civil suit, I'm like, wow, this dude is still really trying to go for it. And I guess if you support it and people are paying for you to get a lawyer, who wouldn't? Guilty or innocent, who wouldn't try to get out of jail? He's still young. He's got to be what? It's been 7 years? So, he's still got a long life ahead of him. He got a child, he got a wife. So why wouldn't you continue to try to get free? But, it's just, it's a tough one. The guy killed his parents. It's like, that's a horrible thing to do. Did he do it? He got 2 mistrials. We can't ignore that. And there was an interview by a juror that I don't know if you guys saw that, but so this article says that Houston, Texas, AJ Armstrong's guilty verdict appeared to come as a surprise to a juror who was in the first capital murder trial in Houston, Texas. And this is a quote: "I'm concerned that the jurors didn't understand reasonable doubt. And it's unfortunate that this has been on trial this many times. Try enough times and you'll find the right jury." Does he have a point? So this is Lance Staudacher. Okay. Armstrong has been found guilty of killing his parents as a 16-year-old back in 2016, and the jurors deliberated for about 10 hours after hearing more than 40 hours of testimony from 31 witnesses over 11 days. And he has been transferred to the state custody, and he will be sent to the Byrd Unit in Huntsville, Texas for processing, which could take days. The Byrd Unit is where male inmates are condemned to death or given life sentences ranging from 50 years to more. Now, the majority of them don't have a chance at parole. Armstrong has already filed a notice of appeal, and he filed a civil lawsuit against the city of Houston, and I believe he lost that appeal. He's accusing the police of planting blood evidence to sway the third jury. He showed no emotion when the judge announced that the jury found him guilty of capital murder. So AJ becomes very emotional when he is asked about his sister. We can even see tears rolling down his cheeks.
I tell anybody who asks, she's had it harder than anybody. Even with me sitting in here right now, I'll never compare what she's had to go through to what I've gone through. She was 12 years old at the time. She's very strong, very, very strong. You know, she not only lost her parents that night, but I was put in jail. My brother wasn't doing well. She's just, she's put with my grandparents, and nobody deserves that, what she had to go through. But I don't know how, but I know it's nobody but God. That girl is so strong. She graduated high school, she's going to a great university, made the dean's list. She's a rock star. There's nobody, that's a very, very special young lady, and I'm just grateful for her continuous support. She's always supported me. She's always been there for me. To this day, she stepped up. My son calls her TT, and she's always calling and checking on him. She's always in town. Every time she's in town, she's going to see him. She's there for him. So it's a blessing to have her. I'm very grateful for everything she's done, and she's strong. The only reason why I have my head on straight. There's no other way around it. After everything I've been through, the things that I've had to sit through and listen to, there's nobody but God that I haven't lost my mind or just quite frankly been suicidal or anything like that. Like, it's truly my faith. God has kept me through it all, and that's why I can sit here and be okay, despite the fact that I'm in this prison physically, but I won't allow myself mentally to go to that place. I won't allow them, this process, all of this to take.
I've no more fucks to give. My fucks are...
I'm strong in my word. I'm strong in my prayer, and I believe every word that the Bible says. And I know that as long as I continue to keep my trust in Him, keep my faith in Him, that this is going to work itself out. It doesn't matter to me what anyone else says about the process. I know that God answers prayers, and there's people that are praying all across. We've had people call from everywhere, not just in the United States, from other countries that have reached out to the family to let us know they're praying with us. And there's power in agreement. There's power in the agreement of prayer. So I'm just grateful for all the people that have been supportive, that have just lifted me up, because that's been a blessing here. You can be in here and at times, get to feeling like, man, like how am I even here? But I'll run into somebody and they'll be like, man, I can't believe you're in here. Man, I've run into so many guys throughout this process that have just been like, man, I've been supporting you. My family on the outside has been rooting for you. It's been a blessing. God's been with me everywhere I've been. And obviously coming to prison, I'm not the type of guy that's a fighter and a yeller and a go off like that. I'm just a quiet to myself. But and there's the worries of being in here, but like I said, God's been with me everywhere I've gone. I've been given favor with, inmates that have just looked out for me, who somehow knew me or heard about me somehow. I've had people reach out to me on the tablet, just messaging me from all over the place that have just heard about my case and just wanted to reach out and say they support me and they're praying for me. So being hit with all that support, I know it's nobody but God that's just put this many people around me to be able to show me that love throughout all this time.
What's the day-to-day like here, would you say?
It is, I work in the
So after hearing from 31 witnesses over 11 days, the jury took just 10 hours to find the now 23-year-old guilty of his parents' murder. And following the announcement of his guilty verdict, AJ's wife, Kate Ober, fled the courtroom in tears after he attempted to console her. Now, AJ's attorney, Rick DeToto, and Ober was devastated as she left after the sentencing. His attorney was devastated. So his family is amazing, and obviously they're devastated right now, but they will rally and they will help AJ and his wife and his young son, he told reporters. AJ is being transferred to state custody and will be sent to the Byrd unit. And the unit is designated for male inmates condemned to death or given life sentences ranging from 50 years to more. Now, he was given 2 life sentences with the possibility of parole in 40 years. And my thing is, if you're given 2 life sentences, there should be no possibility for parole. Not at all. I think it's crazy that they let people out for killing people and you're convicted of it and it's not self-defense. But that's just me. So after his verdict in sentencing were announced, AJ and his attorneys immediately filed a lawsuit against the Houston Police Department, right? So they all testified in court that they saw no DNA evidence. So how is it all of a sudden here's the DNA evidence, attorney Randall Callahan said.
I can't tell you the time, I can't tell you the date, but I'm going to walk out of here. And I believe I'll be acquitted. I believe that this thing is going to work itself out. I have no choice but to keep my faith in God. I know that he answered my prayers when I first prayed in 2016. I know he answered all of my family's prayers over these years and the people that we've met and run into. And I get back out. I've met so many people. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to help people who are in situations like mine, who are put falsely accused, people who are, just need that family support, who need someone to be able to help get them a lawyer. Not many people are able to hire a lawyer. Like the judicial system it's not something that you can just fight. You have to be able to have a lot of support to be able to get through it. And I've realized throughout my time that that's something I really, really care about, is helping make a difference, because there's a lot of people who could use that support from.
Okay, now I want to see what people are saying about this case, because again, this is a tough one. This really is a tough one. So I'm going to read some comments, all right, concerning AJ, his guilt, his innocence, and things like that. So he says he didn't say never in a million years would I kill my parents. He said never in a million years would I imagine being here. He expected to get away with it. Okay, that's one commenter. Another one says this kid literally murdered the 2 people who gave him life, and yet he wants to make it seem like Josh was so unstable that he wouldn't allow his son to be around him. He is possibly one of the most disgusting people to exist. Another comment says he's a different kind of crazy. So a commenter says if his father was part of a prostitution ring and the son is innocent, that could have been a reason why his parents were murdered by someone else. And it's possible that AJ could have been framed. And he made some valid points on some things that weren't brought up, like new evidence about blood being found years later. Why didn't they check the cameras, etc.? Another thought they found, no gun residue. Let's say it was a mask in the house. I watched a lot of crime, and do y'all know how police make people say things, etc.? All right, this comment is super long. It has more to it, but it's not coherent enough for me. But basically, she believes him, okay? Another comment says he definitely killed his family. Notice how he cried for his sister, but not once for his mom and dad. Me, I would have checked on my mom and dad, and he didn't check on them because he knew what he did. Why would you not hold ill will against the people who has given you a life imprisonment and you say you're innocent? I watched this on TV last week and it really touched me. I'm for this family. I hope he gets out and didn't do this to his parents. He seems to have known the parents were dead and the sister was alive. That is huge. How in the hell he got a son and wife? They wrote that twice. The interviewer was letting him give useless answers and didn't press him. You ask how he felt about his brother being accused, and he speaks about his brother's mental health issues to indirectly paint a picture. Why not follow up and make him answer? Terrible journalism. We need a real professional. He's probably sympathizing with this monster. The way he's downplaying firing a gun and starting a fire at 16, psychopath. I'm willing to bet that someone once said, there's something seriously wrong with this boy. I believe his mother might have said that because she definitely didn't hesitate to let him know that he wasn't no good. If y'all don't remember the text messages between him and his mom during the trial, go back and read them again. I'm just saying. His own mama said he wasn't no good. You did it, AJ. You finally getting your karma. Is it me? Or did he talk so highly of his lawyers but not his parents? He loved them, but come on now. He have an excuse for shooting through the ceiling and fire? Yeah, it's sad to say. I think he did it. This dude is a nut job. He's talking like he started a new job. In the beginning, it does kind of sound like that, right? So at 54, this person puts in the time stamp and says, it was you in the gym, but you never took anything? In the gym, his father's gym. His father's gym allegedly had been vandalized shortly before the murders, and a laptop was taken. I always thought that could have been Armstrong if he, did this in the gym. And why take the laptop? To conceal his search history. I mean, this guy isn't slow. When you talk about things that weren't found, like gun residue, he could have wore gloves. He could, he could have gotten rid of it somehow. But I do believe that was him in his father's gym. If not anything more than to make it seem like, somebody else did it. So there's another suspect. So this person says, demon in the flesh, pure evil. I'm so sorry what his parents went through. They didn't deserve this. This guy is an absolute monster. The fact that he murders them and moves on and gets married, has a kid, like nothing happened. His wife, sister, and grandmother all believed he's innocent despite the evidence. The entire situation is heartbreaking. I truly feel that he is a sociopath. And such people have to remain caged for the rest of their lives. He surely is bound to kill again. Otherwise, hey, they let people like this out. He has the option to get out in 40 years, that's for sure. So this person says any normal son would run into their parents' rooms to check and see if they are alive. Now, I'm trying to wait to the end of the comments reading so I can tell y'all truly what I think. Another comment says, see how AJ clearly said, I never went into the bedroom. So he just told on himself, AJ, just stop it now, please, for your family's sake. Blaming his bro. Tell my family to stop wasting your time. Stop wasting your money on me. Because I'm not going anywhere. I'm here in prison where I should be. AJ, stop it now. Stop fooling yourself and telling yourself that you're innocent. No, you thought you were smarter at 16. You are, in all reality, you were the dumbest 16-year-old right in jail. Again, the text messages between him and his mom. She always said he always try to outsmart her, but he always ends up getting caught. The jury got it right where they found him guilty. He did it, and like you used the word unfortunately, it's unfortunate for him as well because he's in jail for killing his parents. He's going to say the price of God in name in vain. He's not sorry about his parents being gone at all. He's just worried about them being in jail. He gave political answers about them. He didn't really seem too distraught about them not being here. He just said politically correct things like, I care for them. I still do. You know, we got along great. My father was my best bud. Stuff like that. He knew his brother didn't do it because he did. Very sad. You killed your mom and dad, and one day family will see. He's all over the place with his answers. I'm still watching the trial and interview, and I'm thinking of the brother may have had a part in this. However, I've read the comments about no tears, and that is vital. The no tears part doesn't move me. It doesn't. People don't cry just because you think, oh, they should be crying here, they should be crying there. That's not how that works. So that doesn't, I don't even. But the comment goes on to say, as a young teen having a seemingly nice home life, I would definitely be in tears and crying for my freedom and innocence in all of this. However, one thing we must note is that the cops arrested him on the scene. They don't do that very often unless they have a cause. Granted, I've never seen this happen to a Caucasian folks often, but it happened here nonetheless. I think that's an important factor that he was arrested. I personally think the sis and bro know more than they are telling because 2 + 2 is 5 at this point, and the math ain't mathing. Bro, you are a monster. I don't understand why they didn't get the video, his lawyers or the district's attorney. And that's what I said. Am I the only person that thinks this kid is innocent? People need to realize there are good parents in this world and there are bad and evil parents in this world. Well, I don't know how this comment weighs in because nothing in court came out about them being bad parents. He's alone. I would want a bunkie because we're both doing something. Okay, that's just irrelevant. My question is, how is this 16-year-old boy interrogated without a family? Okay, geez. You mean without his parents that were deceased? Okay. So this person says they were locked up with him. Somebody else says at the end of the day, I was just a 16-year-old kid. If it didn't fit their narrative, he was 16 and extremely intelligent, and he didn't want to follow the rules, and he wanted to run the streets like a thug. His mom and dad showed him the love that they were present in his life, and they provided a stable, beautiful home with lots of love, and he was getting a great education at one of the top schools, wearing nice clothes and all. They wanted in return for him was to make good grades and get a college education and be respectful to others. They had rules, and they didn't want their kid in the streets. He had what most kids at 16 will never have, but he had that self-entitlement attitude, and when his parents put boundaries down, he thought he didn't have to follow because he killed his parents because they had rules, and he wanted to run in the streets, and as long as he lived under their roofs, he was going to be made to follow their rules. He is a selfish liar, and his entire family has been fooled by the con artists that they can't believe sweet little respectful 16-year-old AJ would never do anything bad. Well, guess what? He did. Wake up, smell the coffee. He is a psychopath with narcissistic attitudes, and he believes people owe him everything, and he is above the law, and the rules don't apply to him. Okay, so I have to tell y'all that comment had no punctuation whatsoever. But I kept going because that's pretty much how I'm looking at it. I think that the jury was hung both times because you can see where there is some type of reasonable doubt. and remind you that they have to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And the blood spatter was the thing that came and sealed the deal. Although the evidence was mainly circumstantial, and it was good circumstantial evidence, they were able to plant enough doubt for them to not be able to say, yeah, I definitely believe he did it without a reasonable doubt. So I think that's why they were hung the first 2 times. Now, do I believe that there's still some slim possibility that he didn't do this? In the real world, yeah. But I really think he did it. The last comment, I believe all those things about AJ. I believe he is a psychopath. He is a narcissist. Now, the main things that give me this impression about AJ and his guilt is, 1, the mom. AJ is not happy that they read the mom's text messages in court the way they did, and they spoke for her. Well, in case you haven't noticed, that's what almost all prosecutors do, because the deceased cannot speak for themselves. They don't even have the family to do that. The family gets to speak when it comes time for sentencing. But throughout the trial, the deceased only has the prosecution there to speak up for them. So they have to do the very best that they can to get justice for that person who was killed. And although at some times while watching the trial, I was like, wow, because they really, really spoke for her. But I think it was necessary. Because I think that if they had not done it the way that they did, the defense would have been able to blow off the engagements between him and his mom as, he's just a typical teen. I mean, you hear that's what he's saying, right? Typical teenager, and that's just the way things go. No, this was above and beyond. And if anybody's confused on that, you need to go back and get the transcripts of those text messages and read them. The mom was constantly telling AJ that he is not a good person and he needs to be a good person, and they're not going to stand for it. His disrespect to other adults was a problem. His fighting and bullying was a problem. Him smoking, him taking cars, being out when he's not supposed to, him being deceitful, him missing school and trying to hide it. Like he was just doing any and everything. He wanted to be this cover-up thug, if you will, while having people think that he's just this sweet little guy who never gets into trouble. He's that type. A lot of us can see it. Now, there's a lot of people who, including his family, of course, clearly think that he's innocent. But there's a lot of people, too, that also cannot see past him. That they can see past him. I'm sorry. And they see him for the narcissist that he is. Again, to me, more damaging than the blood evidence was the text messages between him and his mom. Okay. I think with his dad, they had a different way of working through things. But I also think that being his son, his first son, they had, he was a little bit more lenient towards the things that he did. Maybe he could understand a little bit because he was once a boy. He was once his age. But, I don't think he did not talk to him about the things that he was doing and let him know he needed to straighten out. I just think that he's maybe, sympathized with him more, or he was trying to be more of a buddy. He wanted a special bonded relationship with him. So he had a different approach. But when it came down to things that he was doing, and his mom was like, hey, you're supposed to be going to college. You're messing things up. She was on him like she should have been. But she also was letting him know, we're not going to have this. We take care of you. We provide your clothes. We pay for this. We pay for this. We pay for this. You're not taking advantage of it. We're giving you these clothes and these cars and all that. And we can eliminate that too. She did give him those threats. And that was coming in towards the end. It sounds every bit like right to me that this guy said, this bitch gotta go. And if she gotta go, then of course he can't leave her husband here. Y'all ain't that damn cool now. You're not gonna just kill my wife. So, they both had to go. Okay. And, what did he do? He went right on to marry his girl and they had a baby right in between the trials. So I definitely think he did it. And another thing that really got me too is that although they tried to say that there was some malfunctioning with the alarm system, I think everybody's alarm system experiences a hiccup or two. All right. I don't think it was significant enough to not properly log on that night as it did. They showed when the door opened, when the door was not open again. So how did this alleged burglar get in? Where's the logs of a window, a door, anything? He said this person came in and out the door. But that, to me, that was a fatal mistake where he thought, see, when you're doing wrong, it's best not to, especially if it's something major that you could pay dearly for, because you are likely to forget something. No matter how good you think you got your shit sold up, you're likely to forget something. He didn't have his fingerprints on the note. Okay, good job. He mentioned that there was another note found on another family's car, and it was the same type of note. He didn't say it had the exact same words, but he said it was a copycat. So, and he said that it was found while he was in jail. We don't think that you don't have no accomplices. Nobody would help you to try to get you out, like not even your wife. This young white girl who clearly was so in love with you that she stayed with you knowing that you was on trial for killing your parents. When you on your third trial, going into your third trial, she still married you and had a baby with you. If that's not commitment, I don't know what is, because you're damning this child to this life and you don't care. So why not try to help him get out by planting a note? And if it wasn't her, it could have been somebody else. But I would see her as being the first person to do it. Now, we don't know for sure that there was a note. He's bringing it up in this interview. But, okay, he didn't have his fingerprints on the note. They didn't find no gun residue. That's been done before. He ain't saying nothing new. But the two things that also, along with the moms, if I had to pick three things that tells me that AJ did this, I mean, his defense will really have to come hard and long and hard towards me to convince me that he didn't do this. The mother's text messages. Okay? Him and the mother's interactions in text message. The second thing, the alarm. That alarm. AJ may have not had his hands on his fingerprints on a note. He may not have had gun residue. But how do you explain that it's only you, your parents, your sister in that house, and you claim that somebody allegedly came in and shot your parents and ran back out the house and no alarm showed the door being open? No alarm went off. And the alarm was still on. You can't, is that magic? I mean, it can only be magic or a miracle, because how? I think the alarm was one of the things that he really missed. Because if you call the police and you have to get the alarm off the door before you let them in, where was the alarm disarmed at? that was never proven that it was disarmed at any point throughout the night. And what do you do when everybody's in for the night? Set that alarm. Most people set the alarm once they come in, whether there's going to be going in and out at all. Everybody who lives there knows how to turn off the alarm before you open the door and set it to where it's going to come back on when you close it. Where was the alarm disarmed at? That's not even heard of. When do you disarm your alarm in your home? You don't. So how did it not pick up a burglar coming in? And how did the person get in with no forced entry? How did that happen? And another thing, which this interview really didn't help him, this would be the third thing for me. He never went in that room. I mean, of course, we believe he went in the room to kill them. But after that, he never went in that room. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what the juror from the other trial says. I don't care what his defense team try to say. I don't care what he says. I don't care what his family, who wasn't even there, says. But there is no way somebody is not going to go in there unless you already know what it is. And that's another place where he messed up at. AJ should have ran in that room and act just as shocked and panicked as can be. He did not go in that room. That is not normal. That is not normal. Then when you listen to his response as to why he didn't go in the room, he did not want to see them like that. To me, the jury may have said twice that they don't have no reasonable doubt, but to me, that's it. That's bigger than the alarm. Because the alarm is still circumstantial along with everything else. But when you hear this dude sit up here and say, I didn't want to see them like that. Like what? You don't know what it was. It could have been something else that made the same sound we don't know what he thought a gunshot sounds like coming out of the bedroom of somebody's house. And mind you, they were shot through pillows. Okay? They were shot through pillows as to muffle the sound. The daughter was still asleep. She didn't even hear it. It didn't wake her up. So was it just a loud right here, right there gunshot? No. It was very quiet. The pillow mimicking, a homemade silencer. That was the point of him practicing in his closet. So it wasn't even that loud. How were you sure that there were even gunshots? And there were what, 2 shots? Or did he shoot the father twice? Because the father I think he shot the father twice. So there weren't multiple shots. Like 3, 4, 5 shots. How was he so sure that not only were these gunshots, but they were lethal gunshots? You see? If I was on the jury, he wouldn't be walking out of there. Ever. What if they would have gave up? That guy would be free. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it, because at the end of the day, I'm going to always come back to that. I'm going to always come back to that, and it's going to always say guilty to me every single time. Even if you thought that they were shot, they could be shot and hurt. Nobody knows that someone is going to die immediately from a gunshot wound. Unless you know that they've been shot in the head and you're pretty sure that they did. Did you stand there and watch them take their lives? Well, the father kind of passed away on the way to the hospital. So there was something going on there. And I think he didn't want evidence on him, so he just left that to be, and he felt like he wasn't gonna make it. He was down bad enough to take that risk, and he came on out of there. He ran to get the sister. But unless you already know that they're dead, how do you not want to run in there and, I don't know, stop the blood, do CPR, something? But the first thing you want to do, since you think that they're being hurt, you think that they've been shot, is to help save them. There's no way around that part. It's impossible. You didn't want to see them like that, injured. You never saw any one of your parents get hurt before? Because at this point, at best, you could think that they were injured. So you didn't even go in there and try to help or scare somebody away. Okay, he saw the man run down the stairs, which is, I don't believe it, but that's what he said. So nobody's even in the room. What's stopping you? You don't want to try to help them? It's not natural. It's not natural. And I think it's real sad that there's so many people there for him. I'm not sure what their motives would be. Now, when it comes to the family, I'm pretty sure that they just don't want to believe that he did this. They just don't. I can imagine that mentally it is a hard thing it's just a hard concept for them to conceptualize. He actually killed his own parents. Like, I can understand that. And they didn't live with AJ. They didn't have the relationship with him as he had with his mother and father. They didn't know, I'm sure, what he was putting the parents through. They didn't know how his mother had to get on him all the time. Of course, they didn't get that version of AJ. So they're not even going to, I doubt these were the type of parents that would go and tell the family every little thing he did. So, in wanting to keep his reputation intact and their family business to themselves, they probably thought he was a good, decent boy, and still do. So I can imagine it being hard for them to think that if this guy is really sitting here telling us that he didn't do it, I didn't kill them. They don't know that he's a pathological liar. He's a habitual liar. He's a manipulator. This is what his mom said. They didn't know this. So I can understand them believing him. But when it comes to other people, y'all just meeting this dude. What in the world would make you think that this dude had to disarm the alarm to let the cops in? He told the cops on the phone he was going to have to turn off the alarm to let him in. And I don't know that I wonder if it dawned on him in that moment, like, damn, this is going to mess up my story. I forgot about the alarm. And so the story that him and the defense tried to go to was, hey, the alarm has malfunctioned before. We've had problems with it in the past. If the alarm was such an issue, we all know that you can get high quality alarms that cost a lot of money. And I think if they were trying to go that route, there would be clear and uncut camera footages in the house. But you can also get a surveillance system, an alarm system, for not too much money. That's very inexpensive these days. So I think the parents would have replaced the alarm system if they didn't trust it. I mean, this is the one thing that is the protector of their family. So I think that if they felt like we can't trust this, somebody could be sneaking in here in the middle of the night and we not even know it. The police not even be alerted while we're sleeping. Come home, you tired, you in a deep sleep, or you on medication that week or something, You took something to help you sleep that night, and you don't hear somebody coming in and the alarm ain't working. Nah, I'm pretty sure people who handle their business and got money is going to say we need to get another alarm system and do some research and get one that's reputable. But common hiccups, no, because that's not, these things aren't perfect. So how can people look past that? How can people look at this boy, say, I didn't want to see them like that, and not say, nigga, you did that shit? That's the one thing that gets me out of all of this. More than the text messages, more than the alarm. He didn't go in that room. He said he didn't go in that room. I got to find it again. Hold on. All right. So I'm going to close out on this, y'all. And I want y'all to leave your comments and opinions below. What you think about this? What you think about AJ, his guilt, his innocence, him getting all this support, him going off and getting married, having a child, that girl, his wife, being crazy enough to marry him and have a child with him, his appeal process, his civil suit. Do you think that has some bearing to it? Do you think that he's going to win? And do you think he's going to get out? Do you think AJ did this? And as I leave, we're going to replay his response on why he did not even go and check on his parents.
One call when you were trying to get your sister, and prosecutors said you went straight to your sister's room. You didn't check in your parents' room. Why didn't you open the door to your parents' room?
I did not want to see my parents in the state that I feared they might be in. I don't know. That's also why throughout trial, whenever things were showed, I always looked down. I never want to see my parents in that state. Yeah.
Now, I noticed he looked down and hesitated. No, he didn't look down. He looked straight ahead, searching for the right words. And when he said he feared they were in, to me, this is just it. This is it. This is the smoking gun. This is where he just sells himself up the river. I just don't see any other way around it. He didn't even know how to word that. When comparing it to looking at pictures, from the trial, there's no comparison. There is no comparison. If you're looking at pictures of them at the trial, at their homicide trial, then you know you're looking at dead bodies. Okay, we know what's on the pictures. Dead bodies. These are dead parents in that picture. No, okay, now you can say who would look at that. Because I don't think anybody, unless it is one who is happy about what they did and rejoicing in it and feeling like, yeah, them bitch ass, they got what they deserve. You know, there's some of those, and would love to see their work once again. They would get true pleasure from looking at it. Yeah, they would look at the pictures, but other than that, nobody would want to look at those pictures. But again, you know you about to see your parents dead. You don't know that in the middle of the night when you going to get your sister and you heard some gunshots, fool. Like, this is just, yeah, I'm with everybody else. I hope he don't get out.
It's not, I want to remember my parents how I remember my parents. And hearing how my mom was found and where my dad was and things like that, that's not something I have any interest in ever seeing. You know?
Y'all, how can anybody still be defending this guy? This guy is talking about why he didn't go in the room that night. When he say hearing how they were found, he don't want to remember them like that. That's not the same talk. He didn't ask him, why didn't you look at the autopsy pictures or the crime scene pictures or the pictures of them on the slab while you was in the courtroom when they were being shown. He was asked why you didn't go in the room and check on your parents when you felt like you heard gunshots in the middle of the night. Do you hear this? listening to the description of how his mom was found, you know how she was found because you put her in that position. So you already knew that in your head that night. That's why you didn't go in that room, because you already knew. He didn't want to go back and see what he did. He didn't want to go back in there and maybe dad wasn't dead yet and he'd be like, you nigga, I'm gonna get you, you know, something like that. Because, again, the man wasn't pronounced dead. They said they were working on him. He was still trying to survive on the way to the hospital. But when he specifically said his mom, we knew she was dead. He knew she was dead. And that's why he didn't go in that room.
So, and again, for that to be used against me, it sucks, because who runs in that room? I don't believe anybody in my situation would have, because again, I didn't want to see my parents. What I was worried was, you know, how they were, and my biggest focus was, I need to get my little sister out of this house. I need to make sure she's okay. And we will find out let the police come in and do what they need to do and give us the information about my parents. Wow. But my sister was my biggest worry.
I just can't, y'all.
That's my
I can't.
My little sister.
I just can't. That's enough. I just can't. You want to get your sister out of the house, but danger was outside. You were the safest in the house. You wanted to get away from your dead parents in the room. That's it. Y'all, you wanted to get away from the dead parents in the room. And they said she went to the door. She was about to go in the door. I don't know if that was her testimony or what the prosecution was saying based upon their interviews with him and her. But the little girl was going to go in the parents' room and he stopped her. And I believe he said that he did that for the same reason. He knew what it was. So, we'll see what happens with his civil suit. We'll see what happens with his appeal. I think hold on. Okay, so I'm unable to find anywhere that states that they filed for an appeal. Only the civil suit, which to me is kind of interesting because he had up until September the 15th to file for either an appeal or a new trial. And they did not file for a new trial either. So if he's making all these claims that he made in this most recent interview, why not file for a new trial? I just, it's not, an appeal can take between a year and 18 months from sentencing to be actually carried out in court. He has a lot of support, but to file for a new trial based on newly discovered evidence, then you have to show, you got to show that there's evidence that's just not newly available, but you didn't know about it at the time. It's relevant, it's material, and that altogether, more likely than not, that newly discovered evidence would have brought on a different result. So that's not easy, even though this is basically what he's saying in his interview. So if you stand on it, you stand on business, then why not? Because motions for new trials are about things that are outside the record. Everything from a witness that wasn't allowed to appear or wasn't able to appear. Again, this takes me back to his friend that supposedly, there's to me no way that he wouldn't have brought this friend forward. Any type of, let's say, trouble that this friend could have got into could have been what? I mean, he's an adult now, I'm sure. So what you gonna do? Put him on punishment because he was there while AJ was firing a gun and his father's like, come on, it doesn't make any sense.